Thank you, Adam Global. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be with you this afternoon to share my experience and my knowledge and to hope to get very good feedback from you about this artificial intelligence tool called Chat GPT. I am the managing partner of Birungyi and Associates. It's a law firm based in Uganda, and we do mainly tax work. We are recognized by the Uganda Law Society, by the East African Law Society, by the IFRR, by Global Law Partners, by Adam Global. You can learn more about us from the link which you can see on your screen, and we shall be very happy to share with you experiences in all aspects of tax life and even beyond. So, our discussion today is about ChatGPT, and we shall just start by trying to get the background, what it is, how it came about, so that everybody can either confirm or affirm or get new information about this. So ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence language model developed by OpenAI, one of the leading research organizations in the field of artificial intelligence. Its purpose is to generate human-like responses to questions and statements using a combination of machine learning algorithms and natural learning process techniques. It is trained on a large database. It is said to use about 175 billion parameters, using the internet, using websites, using books and other sources, so as to learn patterns of human language and be able to generate text that is fluent and coherent. We are currently using the ChatGPT 3, although ChatGPT 4 is under development, and ChatGPT 4 is expected to have about 1 trillion parameters. In other words, supposed to be about 10 times stronger, cleverer than ChatGPT 3. As I said, it is owned by OpenAI, which is a research organization focused on advancing artificial intelligence in a safe and beneficial way. Founded sometime in 2015 by a group of IT luminaries, including Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, and others. And it's now supported by a team of over 100 researchers, engineers, and other staff. It says it is committed to creating safe and beneficial artificial intelligence systems that help address some of the world's most pressing problems and improve lives of people around the world. It is a language. It's a language model with an artificial intelligence algorithm that is designed to understand and generate human language. It is trained on a large corpus of text data to learn the statistical patterns of language use. With this, it is allowed to make predictions about words and phrases and come out with text and sentences. So how does it work? How do you get onto ChatGPT if you want to start it? I assume most of you have interacted with it, but as I've said, we just do the basics and say, yes, it's possible you have read about it, but you have not bothered to see how it works. So when you want to use it, you send a token and which is fed into a neural network. The model then processes the input and generates a probability distribution over all possible words and tokens in the sequence based on the distribution. So all you need to do is input the words which you want to be interpreted for you in order to create a text or to answer a question or generate an answer. So you'll go to Google, go to chatopenai.com, sign up, give your email, and you get a free plan. But if you want to fast track your process, you can pay $20 monthly and have a faster access to ChatGPT. And what does it benefit? What are the first and obvious benefits? It has a natural language processing capacity, which is designed to understand and generate natural language. So you input and it develops text for you. It uses useful tools for tasks such as chat box, customer service, and language translation. It has a certain appreciated level of accuracy. It has a deep learning architecture, which is a bit beyond a normal, simple human being. And it has, because it has been trained on a large amount of data, so it has a high level of accuracy. And it can process and generate text quickly, as we shall be able to see later on. It is scalable in that it can process large volumes of data, which would need to be handled by several different people at the same time. So it could handle the data of a workforce of very many different individuals and can process this at a go. So it has a large level of scalability, and as you are aware, most of us professionals, the work is not very scalable because it needs to be done by one individual at a go. It has the capacity for personalization, and it can be fine-tuned to develop, to give results on specific tasks and different domains of a personalized nature. It is multilingual, and one does not have to fear that in interaction with people of different languages, Japanese, of course, the main languages, you could chat in Japanese or in Hindi, and it will give you responses and interpretative capacity when you are using English or some other language. So overall, ChatGPT helps improve efficiency, accuracy, personalization, and language processing applications. Of course, it has some limitations and it has some cynics. A lot of AI cynics have many issues with ChatGPT. Of course, many believe that it creates an existential risk. It is going to take away jobs. It is going to replace lawyers. It's going to replace legal assistants. It's going to replace secretaries. But we have had this before when the train was coming and replacing the horse, when the candle was being replaced by a bulb. We had all this noise that there would be no work for the candle maker, or there would be no work for the horse rider, but the world moved on and people continued getting work. So among other limitations, it is said to lack the common sense which a human being can have. It doesn't have certain human aspects. For example, it wouldn't smile for you, it wouldn't cry for you. These empathetic issues are quite important, and it can't do them. It is also susceptible to bias, simply because it will reproduce based on the volume of data it is processing. So if the data is biased, it is likely to create biased responses. So it is not necessarily working in a mathematical way, which is inviolable. And it has a limited capacity. Of course, its capacity is based on its algorithms. So the way a human being could change based on an environment, based on weather, based on who it is interacting with, based on the political environment, ChatGPT may not be able to adjust based on those externalities. Also, it may not handle, of course, what you call difficult tasks other than language. It will not dance for you. It will not sit down. It will not respond to certain complex tasks. And very many fear for the security of the data which it handles. There have been an alarming level of concern about whether the data which it processes is secure. So, for example, if you asked it to process with certain serious data, actual client data, actual some data of the individuals which may be in your possession, which is supposed to be protected, and it is sensitized by Chat GPT, it's possible that it is put in the aggregate data which it uses to process all other information, and therefore it becomes compromised. So let's kind of limit it now to the legal profession about what it can do and what it can't do. We think that ChatGPT is a very useful tool for research, as we have said, that it can aggregate and use very many parameters to search for data, and it can do research for you. Of course, research is a mainstay of the legal profession. There is so much that needs to be learned. You need to be a bit accurate about which data is relevant for which matter. So this tool is very likely to process data much better than an individual, and much better than the normal Google searches which we have, which are in the mode of just giving you what is a standard framework information without any kind of adjustment or creating a language for it. If you go to Google, it will just give you the facts as they were yesterday. The Chat GPT, of course, using its language capacities, can create contracts, because it will have checked the databases of different contracts and can analyze and tell that this is, for example, a building contract, and when it aggregates information, it will be able to tell that a building contract in country X, which requires this and this adjustment. So this information, this is the standard kind of contract. You could get a standard contract from a number of legal texts which create precedents, but this is an interactive system which is definitely more developed and dynamic than what you get in the standard precedent books that lawyers use. Its capacity for document analysis, of course, is related to its research, and therefore it can be a very useful tool where you are drafting documents, especially mass documents, so you are having very many job applications, and you want it to synthesize for you a few criteria which are key, and you don't want to go through each and every document, and you don't want bias. So this could be a useful part of ChatGPT. And then there are the things, of course, it can't do. If you are a lawyer, you need to, or you're an advocate, you need to have a practicing license, and that license will be given to you based on your academic qualifications. It will be given to you on other parameters. You are a human being. You are able to do contracts. You are able to sue and be sued if you have, if you create a liability, somebody can sue you. So you couldn't get a practicing license if you are ChatGPT, because there may not be any capacity for you to compensate somebody suing you. And it cannot do some of the basic things that lawyers do, some like cross-examination, because it doesn't have the human emotions which are required to adjust to the instant situation that may need you want to adjust questions or withdraw questions or apologize or such things which are contextual. So a number of those things it cannot do at this time. And that's why we think that there is no existential threat to the lawyer so far, because without some of those, the tool itself is like a computer lying on a desk. It cannot produce the work. There are a number of other rivals to ChatGPT. As you may see, there is Robot Lawyer, or the NotPay, which is in the social media currently for having been denied audience in the court. There is the Harvey Legal, which is one of the tools being developed by one of the big law firms in the world. DLA Piper is experimenting with this as a tool, Jasper Chat, and all these others. But all in all, they are showing us that the world is going to AI. So AI is, if we look at the future, we see that lawyers have to work with AI. It will not replace lawyers. Chat GPT will not replace lawyers, but most likely the lawyers who use Chat GPT and use any other artificial intelligence are more likely to replace the lawyers who remain analog and resist this kind of development. It is a wave in the world which nobody will survive. So it is the future, and we think that you like it or not, it's very important for you to know how it is working. As the famous Ethiopian proverb goes, a farmer without a donkey is a donkey. It means you'll be doing the donkey work, you are the donkey. So if I am using ChatGPT to draft for me something, I'm likely to get a result 10 times faster than you who is going to use your head. And if I'm processing 100 documents, it means on that scale, I'm likely to survive as a lawyer better than somebody who decides to write 100 letters by herself. So we need now to see how it actually works. And we are going to do a simple, to give it a simple task. So about the technology. So we have a person called John. He's a taxpayer, Uganda. Asset tax. Access to tax.
One of our guests has asked a question of whether this meeting will there be a transcript available, and will this meeting be available? So this meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded on YouTube, Mr. Yolanda. Don't worry.
So this taxpayer objected 3 days after the assessment.
So whilst Mr. Cephas loads the information to ChatGPT, Mr. Bassam Ahmed Ali asks, looking into the reports and thesis that's required by many students, does it will turn into plagiarism be captured, since it might affect the job market due to an influx of high degree holders who might not be eligible or knowledgeable? So Mr. Cephas, what would you say to this?
This is something which is not very akin to taxation, because as you may remember, tax, for example, litigation is based a lot on precedents. Litigation is based on precedents. So you go to court and you say, on that basis, I can get a decision. But if you were right as an author and you wrote something of somebody else, then you are liable to be, you are liable for plagiarism because you have owned somebody else's knowledge. But in law and legal practice, there is no plagiarism as such. But in other fields, there is plagiarism. But in law, all I need to show you is that the facts, the principles are similar to what is provided in the law, and that precedent was decided in another case. Nobody had touched you for plagiarism. So we looked at the facts of this case. The example we gave, the question was, John is a taxpayer in Uganda. He owes tax to the revenue body and doesn't agree to the assessments by the tax authority. That is the question which was put to ChatGPT, as you can see. And right away, ChatGPT replies. and it first puts a disclaimer and says, yes, I'm a language model and I give general information and guidance, but I'm not a tax expert. I do not agree with the assessment. You have a right to object to the assessment in 30 days of receiving a notice of the assessment. To do this, you need to complete and submit an objection form to URA. And once you have submitted the objection, the URA will review your decision objection and make a decision. If the URA agrees with your objection, they will make the necessary adjustment to your assessments. However, if the URA disagrees with your objection, they will issue a decision letter explaining their reasons for rejecting. If you are still not satisfied, you have a right to appeal to the Tax Appeals Tribunal to do this. And you need to complete and submit an appeal in 30 days of receiving URA's objection letter. The TAT is an independent body that hears and determines appeals against decisions of the Uganda Revenue Authority. The TAT will conduct a hearing and consider the evidence. It's important to note that during the objection and appeals process, you are required to continue paying any disputed taxes that are due. Failure to do so may result in additional payment. It says, I hope this information is helpful to you. As you can see, this is information coming in on real time, almost on real time from Chat GPT, and I can assure you that whatever has been said here is completely true. The timelines are correct, and all the advice is correct. So as a tax body, as a tax consultant, I can say I would agree 100% with what Chat GPT said. So it means that it is a very useful tool. So we have another example where you have now from the side of the Uganda Revenue Authority, supposing you had somebody who works there and has got this challenge. He has got somebody who is objecting to the tax. So the question is, how would the person who works in the Revenue Authority handle that question?
So whilst Mr. Cephas types this out on ChatGPT, one of our esteemed members, Mr. Niraj, has asked us the question, Mr. Cephas, and the question is there any minimum payment required, such as 30% tax liability, before the URA entertain the objection request?
The 30% request is, the 30% requirement is at the time you are in the Tax Appeals Tribunal. It's not before you object. It is after you object, when you are going to appeal. That's when the 30% requirement applies. So to this question, which we are saying, in this case, we are looking at the scenario from the side of the Uganda Revenue Authority. The question was set, and you can see that ChatGPT has already replied. And it says, Azim, who is an officer of the URA, has received an application filed by John appealing the tax in the tribunal, which was filed in 40 days after the objection. And Azim should take the following steps. So it is saying Azim should verify the time limits, should check the applicable laws and regulations to confirm the 30-day limit of filing an appeal to TAT has elapsed. If the time limit has indeed elapsed, then the appeal may be time-barred, and Azim should inform the tribunal about this fact. Very important, very true. Check the reason for the delay. Azim should also check whether John has provided any reason for delaying to file the appeal within the 30 days. If John has a valid reason, such a reasonable excuse or exceptional circumstances, Azim should inform the tribunal of this and allow the appeal to proceed. And get further relevant documents. Azim should gather all the relevant documents relating to the tax assessment and objection and the URA's decision and provide this to the Tax Appeals Tribunal. Yes, this is done in fairly basic language without complicating it which is making, in the actual sense, what this number two and 3 are saying is that URA should file a statement of reasons, but I can say that without using those words, still what it is saying is accurate. It should prepare a response, and ZIM should prepare a response to the appeal, setting URA's position on the tax assessment and the reasons for rejecting John's objection. Here again, 10 out of 10, what ChatGPT has said is correct. Attend the hearing. Azim should attend the hearing and present the URA's case, providing evidence. In summary, Azim should check whether the appeal is time-barred, consider any reasons for delay, gather documents. The only thing I can say, it hasn't said when the hearing is going to take place, but I would say that this is, on the whole, generally accurate. So I would say this is a very useful tool. It's a very good starting point. And in many areas, as lawyers, you find that you have a lapse of just one small thing and your case could be thrown out. But this tool means it doesn't take away your obligation to ensure due diligence, to ensure that you are perfect. Your engagement is with your client. You cannot have an excuse that any fault came from ChatGPT, but this tool is quite a useful tool, and we see it going a long way. Mr. Zim, with those few words, I want to invite members to make their comments and any other responses. I'm happy to have been with you here this afternoon. Thank you, Adam Global. Wish to have so many other similar interactions.
Well, actually, we want to say thank you. That was a very well-presented webinar. And I would also implore and invite our guests who wish to come online. So the first question we have is that how accurate do you think, or how much liability could ChatGPT take in the case of an error? Who would be responsible if ChatGPT made a mistake?
Thank you, Azim. I think the responsibility remains with the, in this respect as a lawyer, I said this is a B2B. My client comes to me, whether I use ChatGPT or not, whether I use Microsoft or not, whether I have a computer or not, I assure my client that I have the professional knowledge to handle their case. In case I don't have the professional capacity, I should be honest enough and say, this is not my forte, I can't handle the matter. So when an error occurs because of ChatGPT, I'm personally liable. ChatGPT, as we saw from the disclaimer, says we are an information processing, language processing software. We are not lawyers. Even if we are lawyers, even if they were lawyers, my client will be coming to me as Cephas, and I cannot pass on the liability. Of course, it may change in respect of any other profession or any other thing, but just like when you sign off for a license, there are so many disclaimers about your liability, but in this case, you are serving somebody else, so you must be personally liable. Thank you.
Perfect. And when we move forward to which you mentioned, contract drafting. So there are sometimes breach of contract. There are sometimes frustrations of contract. To what extent can ChatGPT be held responsible for its transition from one party to another with regards to contents and item, the meeting of the minds?
So what happens in terms of contracts? So what we see is that a number of contracts are very sophisticated. You get an M&A, a merger and acquisition contract between some Fortune 500 companies. The documents involved could be 200 documents. You may need to glean through these documents within a few hours. It may not be humanly possible, but there are a number of standard clauses which are involved. So if you are required to peruse or prepare such a document, this ChatGPT is in a position to tell you that some of these, for example, your other party, the one you are contracting with, has sent you a draft. This ChatGPT is likely to go through it and quickly point out parts which may not be acceptable to you, because you ask it specific questions, areas which are crucial for your client. So ChatGPT will point out this to you, but of course it will not bear the liability. What it is helping you to do is to process quickly and identify areas you could easily have overlooked. But it will not be possible for you to sue ChatGPT. Neither is it possible for you to have a defense that ChatGPT advised you wrongly. I hope that helps.
To what extent do you think that liability can go to?
To what extent would ChatGPT ever become liable for misleading you? I do not think they can take contractual liability. What would happen is that it can have collateral damage. For example, there have been instances where ChatGPT has been asked by a hypothetical question. For example, it says scientist XYZ lived in Sweden in the year 1994 and died in 2000, and this tell me XYZ about him. And ChatGPT could proceed and give a story about that scientist, and that scientist doesn't exist. Now, of course, people will come out and make a lot of fun of that result. And when that happens a number of times, it means that people will migrate from ChatGPT and move to another website, which is much more reliable, which cannot have that kind of accuracy. So it is a reputational damage more than a contractual damage. If people believe that it works largely all the time, but if people believe, for example, that it is accurate 40% of the time, people will avoid it, and within a short time it will collapse as a business. Right now, as you can see, it is not charging, but I believe within a short time it will either be charging or earning through advertisement. So it's no, the liability, contractual liability remains with the user, but I think the reputational damage goes to the AI tool.
Perfect. Now we've got other members with us, and I'm bringing our other members online. Victoria is there, Niraj is there. We're going to bring them on the screen so that we can get their feedback. Mr. Matt Pellon has asked a question here. Mr. Matt Pellon has asked, who owns the data given and any copyright law to follow before publishing the date given? What would you say to this, Mr. Cephas?
I didn't hear the question very well.
So
who
the question
owns the
was,
copyright?
So the question Mr. Matt asked, which I believe he's saying, who owns the data given and any copyright to follow before publishing the data given?
Based on the disclaimer given, as you can see, ChatGPT does not say it owns copyright to the information because it is not proprietary. Copyright is proprietary. So if you have a copyright, you are saying, I have this book, I have published it. Whoever uses it should either pay me or do something like that. So right now, this is an open source information. So it doesn't sell you anything. So it doesn't claim a copyright. It doesn't, whatever it gives you is temporary. In fact, if you ask the same question in 2 days, you would find that this question could have been improved by new information about it. So I do not see a copyright issue arising to ChatGPT. Now, if you published basing on information you have got from ChatGPT, of course, as a publisher, say if you are an academic publisher, you have got to, if you are an academician, you have got to back your sources. If you are doing a master's, you must show the source of your information. So if you merely said you got this on ChatGPT, it may not be verified. I think right now, what has happened is that there are sources of information which are validated worldwide. You can go to Wikipedia and some sources say, yes, once it is in Wikipedia, it has a certain level of acceptance. Judicial notice has been taken of information. You could get it on Google, and increasingly you are getting a mixture of social media on Google and fact checker and all kinds of things. So you have got to have a fact checker. So copyright, really, you as a user, you are the one who is liable in case you give information which is incorrect, because ChatGPT is not going to come out and say this information is 100% correct. It is saying we are a language processor. That is the main disclaimer they have. So if I'm a language processor, how are you going to say that you owe me and I owe you an obligation for wrong information? Thank you.
Mr. Niraj, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, good afternoon, members. Thank you very much, Mr. Cephas, for this enlightening subject. My apologies. I have been struggling to connect with the Teams meeting, and I have not been able to have a grasp of the topic itself, but my understanding is that we are talking about a software which is kind of generative chat in terms of data collection, and it's like a database which is meant for a search engine, which also I heard about the the copyright in terms of materials that normally would be published, and also in terms of the author. Just trying to understand in a very brief form, Mr. Cephas, can you just bring forward some main features of GPT chat?
Main features. So main features is a language. You ask a question, and first of all, you register for it. We showed the registration, how you get access to it. And all you need to do then is to ask it a question, and it will give an answer. And it will say, in some cases, it will say, I don't have the correct answer. In some cases, it will say, this is not the real language processor. You are asking a question of a legal nature. You can go to another source and confirm or improve the information. So that is not the kind of stuff we have seen on Google and other search engines. The other traditional search engines give you certain information in an inflexible way. This chat will give you information based on what you have fed it in. If you said, I am Niraj, if you say I am John Peter, born in this year, and then you give different information on your location, it will adjust that information. So its information is adjustable because, as we said, it aggregates so many parameters, 175 billion, to get to an answer. And once you are able to test it, you'll see that it keeps improving its information all the time.
So, Mr. Just briefly, let me interject. Mr. Epanti has put his hand up. So we request Mr. Epanti to turn on your camera. And Mr. Milhan has asked, if we write a book using ChatGPT, who owns the right for the book? Which is kind of touching on what Niraj was just asking right now. And Mr. Cephas will probably guide us more. And Epanti is also kind enough to join us on screen. And welcome. Well, what are your questions? What's your collective answer to this question that he's asked? So the question asked, gentlemen, is that if we write a book using ChatGPT, in your opinion, who owns the right for the book?
Yes, I think it is like if I wrote a book, in biology and I searched 100 different sources of information, that remains my book. I'm sourcing information from different sources. I read 100 people's books. Those people who wrote the books which I've read don't own my book. Me, who has put up the idea, the proprietary idea to gather information from different people, I'm the owner of the book. So if I go to Chat GPT and it helps me to write a book, I am the author of the book. The downside of this, as you have seen now in education, where, for example, in essays, a student goes to Chat GPT who has been asked to write an essay, and Chat GPT writes an essay for him or her, then the teachers are like, yeah, you have a good essay, but basically it's not yours because you have not learned anything, you have not been creative for purposes of learning. But if at a different level, I am, for example, a lawyer. If I'm a lawyer, I use open source information. So when you're a student at a certain level, we used to go to class and you cannot bring a textbook in order to come and research and get to write a good exams. You are told, read your books until you reach exam time and leave them behind. But if I'm in practice, or if I'm a medical doctor, I'm supposed to keep reading even if I'm in the surgery and I'm operating you. So it is a different thing. So if I'm writing a book, I'm supposed to look for I'm supposed to look for information as widely as possible, and nobody will say that the source of the information is the owner of the book. Me, who has put up the idea of compiling the book, I'm the owner of the book, and of course it couldn't do everything for you. It couldn't negotiate with the publisher. It couldn't print for you. It couldn't do the cover for you. It couldn't do the design for you. You must have the ultimate responsibility and the right ownership. Thank you.
That's a very, very nice way of summarizing it. Mr. Epanti, can we have your thoughts on this? Mr. Epanti, you're still on mute, by the way.
Yeah, awesome. So this is Epanti Banda. I'm a practicing lawyer in Cameroon. And yes, I use ChatGPT for my day-to-day activities in the office. Yeah, so I think the copyright belongs to the engine, which is ChatGPT. Why do I say so? When we're doing research and writing books, we go around and fetch the sources. Okay, we read them before we include them in our write-up, and then at the end of the day, we refer them. We see we make reference to them. But in the case of ChatGPT, okay, it's the engine doing everything. We actually don't do any research. We actually don't even know the reference, okay, or the sources of information that ChatGPT gives to us, because as of now, ChatGPT doesn't give reference to the information they share with us. So I think copyright-wise, okay, it belongs to the engine, which is ChatGPT. But another way around, I'll see it another way around. For example, if you give content to ChatGPT, for example, and then you tell ChatGPT, based on this content, okay, write a book on it, then copyright belongs to you, because originally the content doesn't belong to ChatGPT. It belongs to you, and you fed ChatGPT with that particular content. So those are my thoughts.
What I would say is that there are some things that just cannot be copyrighted. So if the book is science related or if it's related to education, I think that might be a hurdle in and of itself. Perhaps the context might be something that we can discuss, Mr. Cephas.
Yeah, I think, yes, I think that is a good debate, and I think it can go one way or another. Copyright depends on who claims it. First of all, is ChatGPT likely to ask for the copyright? It depends. I don't know. I don't think so. Would you have Google saying we have a copyright to this information which you put in your book? I doubt that.
Do you think people will now rely more on ChatGPT than an actual lawyer?
I don't think so, because this is a very dynamic process, and what the lawyer does for you is really much. This is what we call, supposing we are talking about this as research. In the normal operations of a lawyer, the research might be 40% of the input, and the rest, the 60%, depends on many other skills. For example, if you are a lawyer, what you are interested in, the bottom line is your fees. So how are you going to ask ChatGPT to help you charge fees in a situation which it doesn't know? So if you wrote a very good piece and based on ChatGPT, ChatGPT has not said it needs any money. Are you going to tell your client, I'm not charging you any money because I got this from ChatGPT and they haven't charged me, so you can move on? I think there is a lot for lawyers to do, whether they are young lawyers or senior lawyers. There is a lot of room, and it's very important for us to know that this is a tool and the main work is there. If you have your car at home, it cannot take you to where you are going unless you make it move.
We are also fortunate to have Mr. Shanawaz, who's the MD of Adam Global, because this is obviously the first time we're having this format of our regional meetings. And we will also be inviting our members, Mr. Jason and other members, to join us. But Mr. Shanawaz, on the topic of ChatGPT, what are your thoughts and suggestions? Sir, you're on mute.
Yep. I came to know about ChatGPT maybe 2 to 3 weeks before, and I started using this. I cannot explain how it is useful for everyone. For me, for contacting the clients, for telling them what exactly we are looking for, only correctly enter what details we need. I get complete data, then just copy and paste and send to the mail to the people. Really, it is taking at least helping me to save 2 to 3 hours for drafting that sort of a beautiful mail.
See, because you're yourself a practicing lawyer, do you think it could ever replace, the biggest question is, do you think tomorrow or in a month's time, Mr. Cephas and Mr. Chanavaz will become a section of ChatGPT?
See, the technology, we have to take it in a way that will assist us. It is for human is different. Human beings are different from technology. Technology enables the human beings to do more productive things and things productively and efficiently. I think it will help a good tool for not only lawyers, but also all people, even salespeople, engineers, technicians, anyone. And it is really helpful to everyone.
Sir, your thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And one thing that I wanted to explore while also hearing what Mr. Shanavas just mentioned it to us as to who would be the users, who would be the user, because I would imagine that the sky is the limit in terms of what information, because it is just a search engine, right? So what kind of information, just imagine what kind of information that someone would look for in that search engine. It is just what is the limit? What is the limit in terms of what information? So it all depends on who would be the typical profile of the users. See, I can see the new generation or more kind of, exploring, at all time exploring, whether they are in the school, in the college, in the universities. They are very wise. whenever they come to a new word or a new scenario, what they do, they will just go on the Google, they will try to search, oh, I want to understand what it is. I will just find it out. Okay. So, I mean, how we can compare to Google, okay, to Google. So it all depends on as to who will make use of this search engine, what would be the benefit, okay, and what kind of similarities or differences that they will find out with that of the other search engine, you know, be it Google, be it whatever other search engines that we have. So it all depends on, you know, the person preferences, what the person, I mean, I'm referring to the user, what the user is looking for, what kind of profile those users are, that they are very, you know, motivated to go into that platform, what kind of benefits that they would have access to in terms of exploring, you know, that search engine. So I mean that's it, a bit my thought.
So Niraj, I agree with you 100%, and I think this is a race to the finals. Google had been dominating the search engine domain for some time, and I think this was a long time coming. This isn't the first render of AI being used. AI was used previously in a very in a very hastily way. It was launched on Twitter by the name of Tay, and it used information based on Twitter, and unfortunately, it didn't go too well. It was pulled out within 24 hours for having racist views and having views which are perhaps not friendly. So before any damage could have happened to Microsoft's reputation, they pulled it off straight away. With regards to the use of this, again, Mr. Cephas brought this up very well in his presentation. That the biases of those people, what you're referring to is called a black box theory. So the black box theory is there is an output, but we question the input, we question the work process, right? So what people governing bodies are asking for is for Microsoft and all parties involved to expose the black box theory to how it got to its result. And the process of the algorithms that Mr. Cephas referred to is called deep learning. So what happens is the algorithm siphons through the information, takes what it wants to, and it doesn't take necessarily what it should. This is the bias. So there is this thing, if you use the AI to create an image of a CEO, bearing in mind, the majority of big companies have Indian CEOs, the big companies. If you type in CEO, the AI will generate a white person in a suit. So this is an example of the bias, which is currently been inflicted upon AI based on the data set that it has to crawl through. So these things are currently being worked on, but it's definitely a very, very valid point. And it's something that as time progresses, as Mr. Cephas kindly said, you know, the candle, once upon a time, we all used to use a candle and now we're using the light bulb. And in the Ethiopian proverb, the farmer without a donkey is pretty much a donkey. You know, even farmers have used AI. They've used it for, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, for watering their fields. They've started using AI to see how far their crops are growing. So AI is a tool. I don't see it replacing humans soon, but I do see menial jobs having to move forward. For example, the newspaper. I can't remember the last time my father's purchased a newspaper because everything's on Google, everything's online, you find it on Facebook. So similarly, there will be steps forward. But I would like to throw this back to you, Mr. Cephas. Where do you see AI with regards to tax? Bearing in mind that tax is one of those fields that have always been immune to progress when it comes to IT. Where do you see AI fitting in the tax process?
Thank you, Mr. Zim. Tax is a very wide field, very wide field. So say if you talk, say, income tax, if you talked income tax and you talked about international taxation, We now have a very complicated field called Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. When you try to read the documents related to Pillar 1 and Pillar 2, which have been done by the OECD, it really is like trying to study for a master's degree. It's very complicated because there are about thousands of permutations. I can see this as being a very good area to use ChatGPT to solve my problems and read the double taxation treaties of UK and Italy, India and New Zealand at the same time without me going to look for all that data. So there is a very wide space. The most complicated part of tax is income tax. And so if you were just in the advisory space and you are advising your clients about how tax planning and issues like that, this is a very useful tool to do research because the tax area research is very paramount. What the PwCs and Ernst & Youngs of this world do most of the time in tax is research and comparing 10, 20 different countries at a go, looking at tax rates of different taxes at a go. This is the best way you can handle that. If you have simpler taxes like VAT, then you just put in the formula and it comes out for you, giving you something. It may not be 100%, but it will have really reduced the workload which you have to do at the international level. So I see in 5 years really a big simplification of a number of the difficult tax areas. Thank you, Mr. Zim.
But do you see ChatGPT being a ethical tax advisor, bearing in mind it wouldn't be aware of the loopholes because the biases fed to it perhaps wouldn't include it?
I think the ethics really belong to the lawyer and the client. In tax, most of the time it is about what the client wants. So either you are doing an audit backward to adjust what the client wants, or the client wants tax advice for the future so that they can fit their facts within the framework of the law. So if I put in, if say in the most simplistic terms, I say I have $100 million, I want to invest in real estate, I want to pay the minimum tax, give me the country which gives me the most efficient tax solution. If you asked me, I would have to go into the laws of each of those countries, and it's not just about tax rate, it's about deductions, incentives, allowances, and all those. And I believe if you gave that to an artificial intelligence, it could give you an answer in 1 hour. So that wouldn't be an ethical issue. It is just a research issue. It has the capacity to give you an answer quickly. If you gave me that question, I would say, I warrant to be paid $500 per hour for that. But if somebody knows that he can get that answer from ChatGPT in 20 minutes, he doesn't even need to ask me. The problem is that the role of the lawyer, sometimes the client doesn't know what is the right question to ask. So it would be me as a tax planner to know this is the most efficient question to ask, and this is how it is dealt with. I hope that helps, Mr. Zin.
Sir, you've been very, very kind.
Thanks very much for the initiative. We recently joined the network, so this is our first regional meeting. So we really do not have much to share, but we think it's a great initiative to learn about what's happening in other regions. And whenever we have services in those areas, okay, we'll know the right persons to contact, and it's good. It's also good for learning. So that's all I have to share.
Yeah. Thank you, Azim. This is very fruitful discussion, and I'm thankful to Mr. Cephas to bring this new subject. And I must admit that this is quite new for me. But in terms of the professional landscape, I would say that this tool would be helpful. Why? Because in terms of technical research, if I if I bring it to my space where I am operating and business in which business I am, in terms of more cross-border, dealing with clients, with entrepreneurs, with intermediaries around the world. So this search engine bring me another option as a tool to come up with more research and bring it to more updates and which is kind of more efficient in terms of doing research. So when you tend to uh, to bring information to people with whom you are dealing, to just give them a bigger picture. So I would say this can be quite helpful, okay, as a tool. That's what I have as a feedback.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
May I-
Mr. Mohammed Faris.
Yes, thank you very much. A nice presentation and nice deliberation by others too. Thank you so much for having this and including us also in the program or webinar rather. And as you said, it is useful and it is challenge. It has its own challenges using the Chat GPT or artificial intelligence in one word. So my opinion goes like this. Now, the intellectual property perspective. Now, the IGPT, this Chat GPT. Now we post a question. We say, right? We post a question and we get the results, right? But somebody had given all these feedback there. Sorry, somebody had given somebody had feed all those information. We are getting it as per the questions now. Now, how intellectually it is protected. Now, say I have a book. Say now artificial intelligence and the law. I have a book like this. You say, right? This book, in fact, in the system that has been there, and somebody search it, it comes up, and without the reference of this book, and then how I am an author, I am protected. Number one. So it has its own challenges. So intellectual property law perspective, how people like us, musicians, and then authors and patent right owners are protected on this. That is my question. And I think our guest speaker or others could give an answer. And that is what I said, according to my little knowledge that we have, it is always it's a challenge for the legal professionals and also the users, I believe. Thank you.
The purpose of the author to musician was to to gain some commercial ground from this. So when ChatGPT is using it, there would have to be some commercial aspect that ChatGPT is getting to pass on to the author. So my question is, how does this disturb the author's revenue stream with ChatGPT's use?
Yeah, if that is there by way of a contract, and then if the particular author is benefited out of it, of course, yes, that is a license given or authority is given or permission is given by way of a contract. Then it is fine. It is good. The commercial benefit that is the author is having it. Yes, you are right. Exactly.
Perfect. And I think we will have parting words now. So we would like to say thank you for everybody for joining us. Most importantly, thank you, Mr. Cephas, for a very wonderful and insightful webinar. You, Mr. Mohammed Faris, Mr. Shanawaz, Mr. Niraj, all of our members, Mr. Apanti. Any final thoughts before we conclude? Mr. Cephas.
Thank you, Azim. Wonderful for you to prepare this. You are the unsung hero in this whole thing. You did all this work. You made the presentation. I so much appreciate. Happy to have interacted with all of you. Thank you, Adam Global. I hope we are going to have much more interesting webinars in future. I wish you a nice day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I also want to thank my team of Kenneth and Richard who are here with me, who have helped me with the IT and every preparation which I've made. Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, Richard.
And Mr. Epanti, you have your hand up. What would you like to ask?
Yes, it's not actually a question. It was just like to encourage each and everyone to make use of this tool, understand it, because we as lawyers will be called upon to assist clients with issues that may come up with this tool, which is ChatGPT. And we can only assist our clients if we understand how this tool functions. Yeah.
This webinar, this is basically the Africa regional meeting, right? So from now on, all these regional meetings will have an agenda, which Mr. Cephas very well and in a very nice way spearheaded on this occasion. This way it allows us to interact with one another, get to know each other, and also express our opinions and knowledge and share it with one another. So I hope this is the first of many, and I think every second Tuesday it will be the Africa regional meeting. And for the next meeting, Mr. Epanti or Mr. Mohammed Faris, Jilani, if there's any members who wish to present, by all means, message me. You can contact me. You have my email address and mobile phone number. I've emailed everybody. And we can coordinate this. So the next meeting now will happen on the second Tuesday of next month. I'll send you guys an email. And if there's anybody who wants to coordinate with their specific topic, they can do. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. It was a pleasure being a host for this. And again, Mr. Cephas, thank you so much for your valuable input. And thank you to all the members for attending.
Thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye now.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.